Well, welcome back, everyone. If you were watching before, we just got done talking about the RAPID grants, and we're about to talk about youth talent and workforce development. But before we do, I'll introduce myself. So my name is Ryan Zimmermas. I am the lead economic recovery program manager in the economic recovery division of the Department of Economic Development. And I am joined today by, once again, by the incomparable Abrikataka.
I'm Abrikataka, also a program manager under the NSORG program.
Awesome. So we're going to talk a little bit this hour about the Youth Talent and Workforce Development application round for the North and South Omaha Recovery Grant Program, or NSORG as we'll refer to it. And so we'll talk about that. We're going to try to keep this to about 45 minutes or so so that everybody can head off to lunch, because I know we're coming up on the lunch hour here. But to start with, we've got our website pulled up here, and I'll mention again, I mentioned this in our previous application workshop, but if you need help navigating the website, we have posted a video on social media walking you through the website, how to navigate the different materials on there, as well as the program manual, which we'll get to in a second. So once you're able to navigate to the NSORG webpage here, the first thing we're going to take a look at today is the program manual, so that we can get a kind of overview of the Youth Talent and Workforce Development program requirements.
Yes.
So where do we go to find the program manual?
So on the website, we're going to scroll down all the way to
Scroll a little bit further. There we go.
Yep, program resources.
Okay.
And we get the grant program manual right there. And that's for the whole NSORG grant program.
Okay, so I'm going to open that up here. I'm going to start at the top.
Yes.
A couple things I want to note just before we start talking specifically about our topic for today. This is version 1.1 of the program manual. So we did make a few updates to the program manual to clarify some things that were unclear to folks with our version 1.0. These were all minor updates to help clarify some questions that we had been receiving, and a summary of those is in the record of change, which is this last page of the program manual, record of change. You'll see version 1.1 here, and we've broken down exactly what sections and provisions we've updated to make that a little bit more clear for everyone. So I'm going to go back up here to the top and to the table of contents. Again, today we're talking about youth talent and workforce development. So if I'm interested in applying for potentially this application round, where should I start in the program manual?
That will be under section 3 to learn more about that specific funding categories. So it's going to be section 3.3.2.
And there we go. Yep.
Hopefully I got it right.
Funding category restrictions. Right on. Okay, so we've got each of the different application rounds listed here.
Yes.
And today we're talking about youth talent and workforce development, which is subsection 3 of that section.
Exactly.
So to start with, Abra, can you just give us a quick overview of what we're looking for in this application round?
Absolutely. So just like the name says, the definition is actually in the name. So youth talent and workforce development. So in this specific funding categories, we're looking at projects or proposals that are going to be attracting, retaining, and developing a diverse youth talent. And of course, in that workforce, we're looking to make sure the workforce is stronger and for, available projects that have specific programs to help folks that are talents that is available and willing to work. So that's mainly what this specific, I'm very super excited about this funding category only because we've had it in other grants in other parts of Nebraska. So I'm really, really excited that it's now available in the Omaha area.
Yeah, absolutely. So a lot of folks don't know, but we actually had some QCT grants in Lincoln and in Greater Nebraska and the rest of the state. You're welcome to check out our web pages for those. But this was one of the more popular categories in those grant rounds that went out earlier this year. So we're excited to see this coming to Omaha in the North and South Omaha Recovery Grant Program, specifically to the qualified census tracts and economic recovery areas, or economic redevelopment areas, I should say, in Omaha.
Right.
So really targeting those areas with this grant. Can we talk for a minute just about who is eligible to apply for a youth talent and workforce development grant?
Yes, absolutely. This is a great one because it's open to public and private entities. So great, great ways, not just limited to just nonprofits like other funding categories, but this is public, private entities that have submitted their proposals. And of course, we're going back to that proposal because under the NSORG program, we have to go back to the proposals that are listed in the quote unquote Olson plan.
Yes, so that coordination plan and appendices, and we'll dig into this in a minute here as well.
Yes.
But those proposals that you're submitting here have to be listed, excuse me, in the coordination plan or appendices.
Yes.
A lot of people refer to that as the Olson plan, right?
Yes.
So that's kind of the baseline criteria for being eligible here. And we'll talk more about some of the ins and outs of this program as we go through this application.
Absolutely.
And that's actually where we're going to hop to next. But before we do that, let's just kind of show people where can you find that coordination plan and appendices.
Yeah. So a couple places. Of course, you can always find it on the program manual, but on the main page where Ryan is at right now, you can find it under that.
Yeah, so we've got a couple links to it.
There we go.
So let's do this one here. This will take you to the Nebraska legislature's webpage.
Yes.
This first section here is the coordination plan. And then all of these sections here are the appendices. And I'll just note Appendix G here is all of the proposal summaries. So anyone that submitted something in that coordination plan or appendices is going to be listed here. That's the baseline eligibility. So make sure that your application proposal, if you're considering applying for this, is listed somewhere on this document or in any of the other documents in the coordination plan or appendices.
Right.
So let's hop over to actually apply. So let's say I'm in the plan. I am doing some kind of a project that involves youth talent or workforce development or some combination of the above. And I've decided that this is the category that I'd like to apply for. What do I do to access the application?
So on our main page, you just go to, there's a section where all the funding categories is, so the application information. All the categories are posted there. The ones that are live will say apply now. So you go to that youth talent and workforce development and you click apply now.
Yes, and I'll just underscore that that's important. If you aren't applying for youth talent and workforce development grants, you don't need to click this button. But if you're applying for that, don't click the other apply now buttons. Each of these is a separate application link. So that's really important. If you're wanting to apply for youth talent and workforce development grants, don't click the apply now button under placemaking, right? Make sure it's the specific apply now button for youth talent and workforce development.
Right.
So if we click on that, we'll be able to confirm that that's the category we clicked on here because it says that in the title screen that comes up here.
Exactly.
And you'll find a bunch of really helpful information about this. In addition to what you find on the website and the program manual, you can review that information here on this landing page for our application portal. So if I'm going to apply, I'm going to click that apply button here.
Yes.
And first question for you, Abra, is if I don't already have an Amplifund account, maybe I've never received a grant from the state of Nebraska before, never used Amplifund, what do I do at this point?
Yeah, great question. So Amplifund, of course, is our application portal. You'll see a register button right at the bottom right there where Ryan is clicking. So you create your new account. One thing that I did want to mention real quick, if you're wondering like how to assign the roles and everything, like for this, when you're creating the account, there's a grant management resources on our webpage that will actually have like a user management guide on how you can like assign roles if you're wondering who in your organization that you decide to assign these roles to.
That's a great tip. Yep. So if you have Amplifund specific questions, there is a link on our webpage here. This is right above press releases and announcements. It's right underneath the program resources. This is another resource for you. It's not going to be specifically about this program, but this Learn More button will take you to a page that has some technical assistance.
Exactly.
If you get any kind of technical issues that you run into, there's also a helpline number that you can call there.
Yes.
And Amplifund staff will be available to assist you in any technical glitches you might run into.
And of course, you can always contact us.
Absolutely. So there's a great plug. Feel free to reach out to one of yours truly, the program manager, the lead program manager. We'll be more than happy happy to assist if you have any questions. So I'm going to go back to the application portal, and I'm logging in here with our account. And it'll take me back to that landing page again. Now I'm logged in. I'm going to click apply, and I'm going to go to this application link here. If you haven't already started an application, there will be an option to create a new application. But this is another great thing about the Amplifund software. So if you're halfway through and it's 2 a.m. and you're ready to call it a night, you're welcome to hit save, and you can come back, log into your Amplifund account, and access the application right where you left off.
Exactly.
All right. So I went ahead and I clicked apply under that account here. I want to take us through a couple different parts of the application. You'll really want to start on project information up here. You'll give your application a name, and this is where you're going to request the amount of the award. So this might actually be a good opportunity for us to talk about how much can you request under Youth Talent and Workforce Development?
Yeah, great question. So that is up to $5 million, and that's actually outlined also under that funding category on the program manual. You can only request up to $5 million. But what happens if you request more than $5 million? And Ryan is demonstrating that right now.
Absolutely. So you'll get an error message here that will remind you of that award ceiling. So make sure that your request is at or below $5 million. You'll also find, and this is maybe a good time to mention, in the program manual, you can't request more than you originally requested in the coordination plan or appendices.
Exactly.
So if your original request was $3 million, then you're limited to $3 million. So it's a $5 million absolute ceiling, or the amount of your original request in the coordination plan or appendices, whichever's less.
Yes.
Okay. So we've plugged in our application name and our request amount here, $5 million. I'm going to fill out these required fields here and mark as complete. So that'll be a good way to verify that you've filled out everything correctly. If you're missing anything and you try to mark it as complete, you won't get this success story up here. You'll get an error message, and it'll tell you that you need to go back. So always good to mark sections as complete once you're ready. And always good to save and continue so that you don't lose any progress on your application. So the next section of the application here is the application forms. We've got 7 different sections here. We're going to touch on a few of these today.
Yes.
And we aren't going to have time to hit on every single question in here. But again, please use us as a resource if you run into any questions. I'd recommend kind of working through the application from start to finish and getting an overview of what's there. But we're going to jump in today on part 3, the threshold questions. This is a really helpful section for understanding if you qualify for this application round.
Yes. So why is this section so important, Ryan?
Yeah, so this will actually, as you go through and fill out the answers here, it'll tell you, it'll give you a red error message if there's something that you answered that is a red flag that maybe this is not the correct application category for you to apply under because of the requirements of the program. So the first one that we see here is the project you're applying for listed in the coordination plan or appendices. I feel like we are beating those names to death, but that is the first question. And if you answer no here, it's going to give you this red error message and let you know that you probably don't want to continue to spend your time on this application because you have to be in the coordination plan or appendices in order to be eligible.
Yes.
So we're assuming if you're still with us at this point, you're probably answering yes here. It'll ask you some information about where in the coordination plan or appendices that application can be found or that proposal can be found. There's also a link to that coordination plan and appendices right up here for your convenience so that you can navigate to that if you're trying to figure out which of the appendices you're in.
Right.
So I think we can probably talk about some of the questions over here about scholarship programs, partnerships, and those sort of things. So let's start with the scholarship programs. Does your project involve scholarship programs? It's just a yes or no. It's not telling me that I'm not eligible if I click something one way or another. Why are we asking this question?
Well, because priority is going to be given to 3 proposals that have 3 different, I guess, categories, or I don't want to label them as categories anymore.
But so there's a priority for different partnerships.
Partnerships, exactly. So scholarship program, and the emphasis on this is that the scholarship program has to have been in your original proposal. That's a way of us of making sure that yes, you have a strong and solid scholarship program that you've thought through. You can't just include it now in the details. So if you go on the program manual, like Ryan is going right now, that section does mention that.
Yep. So we've got a definition of a scholarship here. If you're wondering, is the Youth Talent and Workforce Development application that I'm putting together really considered a scholarship or a scholarship program? And as Abra mentioned, that's not something that you can include in your application now if it wasn't originally listed that way in the coordination plan or appendices.
Right.
But this is where you would you'd find out what counts as a scholarship program. The reason that's important here is that, and we're going to talk about this in a minute, in order to be considered for funding under this category, the project had to have received an economic score of 2.0 or greater in the coordination plan or appendices. Like I said, we'll revisit exactly how do I navigate to figure out if I got an economic score. We'll talk about that in a minute. Yeah. But while we're on scholarships, this next bullet point here has some exceptions to that minimum economic impact score. So can you walk us through those exceptions, Abra?
Yeah, so the exception is if you're a quick win, so you're listed as a catalyst project or a quick win. So the catalyst projects or quick wins will be in the coordination plan. If we go to the coordination plan, which will probably go up. Do you want to hit it right now? Okay.
We can go there right now.
So that first one, so as a catalyst project, you will be the ones from tables 3 to 7 on that coordination plan. You'll be the ones highlighted in green, or if you're colorblind, you can always look at the big C next to your proposal description. Or if you're listed in the small quick win table, which is table 8.
Okay, so I'm scrolling over to table 8 here. So here's table 8.
If you're listed here
wins.
and you decide, hey, youth talent workforce development is the way to go, then you will be exempt from that economic impact score.
Yep. So if you're looking at your economic impact score, it's less than 2, but you're a catalyst or a quick win, that's totally fine. That gets you off the hook. And then to get back to what we're talking about, scholarship programs.
Yes. So the second exemption that you're allowed is a group of exemptions, actually. It will be if you have a scholarship program. So scholarship program is defined, of course, in there. So you know exactly. And that scholarship program, again, has to be within your original. It will have to have been included within your original proposal.
Absolutely. So that is really why we're asking this question. We're going to hop back over to the application now. That is why we're asking this question, does your project involve scholarship programs? If you answer yes here, and as we've mentioned, you had a scholarship program in your original submission in the coordination plan or appendices, then when we get to the question and when we revisit the economic impact score in the next section, you're exempt from that minimum requirement.
Exactly. Yes.
Okay. And then we started to talk a little bit about partnerships as well.
Right.
So talk to me about the partnerships and the prioritization here.
Of course. Again, priority is given to a partnership. If you're partnering, your organization that's applying, you're partnering with an institution of higher education. Again, you meet that exemption again if you have a lower impact score than 2 and you're partnering with an institution of higher education, then again, you're exempt.
Well, we should just clarify that here, actually. So I don't see that in this section of the program manual. So sorry, we might have got our wires crossed a little bit here. So that's a prioritization in the scoring.
Yes.
We'll talk about the scoring in a little bit here. And want to just separate those two concepts here for everyone, just to clarify. So the scholarship programs are one way to get that exemption from the economic impact score. Being a catalyst or a quick win is another way to get that exemption. But in this threshold section, we're also asking about those partnerships because those are going to be important in the scoring as we're competitively evaluating these applications.
Priority is what I meant.
Priority.
Priority.
Not exempt. Yes,
yes,
okay,
not exempt.
Perfect.
Priority.
Yep. So
Yes.
if you are partnering in your proposal with any of those types of entities, an institution of higher education, a public school district, or a corporation with at
Yes.
least 200 employees, you can mark yes and list those entities here. And we'll talk a little bit later about where else you can list them in the application.
Yes.
But this is to kind of flag priority for us
Yes.
as we're reviewing these.
Yes.
Okay. I think we're going to hop over next to section 4 of the application forms here. Part 4, I should say. So the general application questions. So after you've gone through the threshold questions to get some of that initial eligibility out of the way, the general application questions is where really the meat and potatoes of your application is found. So the first thing in here, we've got some instructions that mention that a lot of these application questions mirror the questions from the original kind of round through Olson in that coordination plan and appendices.
Right.
So if I'm pretty much submitting the same project, I want to keep a lot of my answers the same, but I can't find the Word document somewhere buried in my files of what my initial answers were. Is there an easy way for me to get access to the information of what I initially submitted?
Yes, so you can actually hop on, there's a link right there that will give you access to the data request form that you can fill out. It's also on our webpage. If you want to fill that out and submit it, then one of us will actually send you a copy of your original proposal.
Yep. So great way to save yourself some time if a lot of your answers are going to be staying the same and you want to get your original submission data as an Excel file. That's really easy to copy and paste. A lot of the questions that we ask in that section are worded exactly the same.
Right.
And so it's a really easy way to match up one-to-one any of the answers you've previously submitted. So you'll fill out this form here and plug in your contact information. Someone on our team will be reaching out with that file for you to help you as you're filling out this application. And so we're going to go through here to the question now that we've been talking so much about, the minimum economic impact score requirement here. So we've got a section in part 4 about economic impact. We're asking you to enter the total economic impact score from 0 to 5 for your application as reported in Appendix F, Economic Impact Evaluation Report. We're going to hop back to the legislature's page here. Well, I've got too many tabs open now. So we're going to hop back over here to the appendices. So we were just talking about Appendix F. That's going to lay out the methodology for those economic impact evaluations, and there are some really helpful tables in this appendix that lay out the total economic impact score for each of those different organizations that submitted a proposal.
Right.
If your eyes are hurting looking at this,
I was about to say.
there's an easier way to find it. Yep. So Appendix G, again, is all of those proposal summaries. And at the bottom, I'm going to zoom in here, of each summary. So here's proposal number 2, for example. You'll see the economic score. So this particular one got a 0.25 economic score.
Yes.
Unless they meet one of those exemptions we've talked about.
Yes.
They're below a 2.0.
Yes. So Catalyst, small quick win, and scholarship.
Yep. If that proposal does not meet one of those, then they aren't exempt from that minimum requirement.
Of 2 points.
So you're going to want to really pay attention to what your economic impact score was in this section here.
Right.
And let me just point out that the reason that we're setting that minimum economic impact requirement, I think we've gotten this question quite a bit. Why are we requiring that it's at least 2.0 or higher? The reason for that is because LB 531, the legislation that enables us to do this grant program, requires us to prioritize projects that have a focus on economic development. And that economic score is a really great way for us to tell just at a glance in a way that's following that coordination plan in the appendices as the legislation requires us to, whether this is going to have the kind of economic impact that we're looking for to really benefit these communities and make an impact in North and South Omaha.
Exactly.
Okay, so here's where you'll enter that score. Again, you're going to want to be at a 2.0 or higher, or if you have one of those exemptions, you can be below that 2.0, and that's totally fine.
Right.
That is, I think, all that we wanted to talk about in this part of the application. But again, if you have questions as you're going through these, a lot of these align with the original questions that you answered, and we are always willing to answer any questions that you might need if you need assistance as you're completing those.
Yeah.
Okay, let's hop over to part 5, which is going to have some specific questions about the Youth Talent and Workforce Development Program here. So can you talk to me a little bit about what's in here?
Yeah, of course. So again, the youth talent workforce development, just like the name says, we're looking to attract and retain the talent that's here in Omaha, and of course, to make an impact on the workforce. And this will actually be a list of this list that we're looking at for the project specific information. It will also be in the program manual. One of the things that we're looking to do is to provide various resources or various project proposal ideas of how we can retain or attract this talent. And of course, this lists what your program is about, and you can select multiple if you want to. So if you choose, okay, if your program is about job training, if your program is about grants to underserved workers, and then if you have other, that's the nothing is actually listed on here, because this is not a list that is exhaustive actually.
Yep.
So you could always add your own if your project is very specifically doing something different that's going to help attract and retain that talent and workforce. So you can just list that there.
Yeah, absolutely. So again, not an exhaustive list. If you have something that your project involves that's not captured here, that's totally fine. Check that other box. You'll want it to still relate to youth, talent, and workforce development.
Exactly.
But you can type in what other type of project it is there.
Right.
So then we've got two more questions here, providing a narrative of the project's activities based on the answers to the previous question. So talk to me about what type of information I should be providing in this box here.
Yeah, so details, your proposals, and of course, there is a description of the proposal that you originally submitted, but we don't know it as much as you do. So this is just providing more details based on your answers. So if you're providing job training, how are you intending to do that? How are you intending to provide that job training so that we can have some really super nice talent that we can retain here in the South and North Omaha communities?
Yeah, that's a great advice for how to think about answering some of these questions. Let's talk about the last one on here. How will this project provide a tangible benefit to individuals located in QCTs or ERAs? So we've got a couple of acronyms here,
Yeah.
And we've been throwing these out a little bit. Before we talk about this question, let's just go back to the website here and look at that map, because this is going to be your best friend when it comes to figuring out where are the QCTs and ERAs. So this is on the North and South Omaha Recovery Grant webpage. We've got a list of all of the eligible census tracts. So you can see based on the color coding over here, if a certain census tract is within a QCT, an ERA, or both. You can even plug in an address right here. If you have a specific address that will zoom in then to wherever your project is located, and you'll be able to see for sure which census tract it falls into.
Yeah, and one question that people have had, Ryan, is why are we just targeting the QCT or qualified census tract or ERA communities?
Yeah, so that's a great question, and that comes straight from the legislation here. So LB 531 limits the eligibility for the North and South Omaha Recovery Grants to projects in qualified census tracts or economic redevelopment areas. I always stumble over the ERAs. Economic redevelopment areas. So this question here, we're asking, how is your project going to be benefiting individuals in QCTs or ERAs?
Exactly.
So with this type of a project, right, we've got really a people-centered application around here. It's about youth. It's about talent. That's people. It's about the workforce, which is made up of people. And so we want to make sure that those people that are benefiting are going to be within the QCTs or ERAs to align with the legislation.
Yes.
Awesome. Okay. We're going to look at one more section of the application here, which is the budget. And this is a section that I like to spend a little bit of time on just because this can trip people up sometimes. So we click on budget here. I'm seeing a proposed budget with a couple of categories: personnel and program supplies. What if my project has some expenses that I want to have be grant funded that are not limited to personnel or program supplies?
Yeah, that's a great question. And this is one of the things that I love about the budgets that we've been able to implement for the NSORG programs. this is a budget that you can customize. We give you like 2 suggestions and like personnel, program, supplies. So if you want to get rid of those, you're like, no, I don't like those. You can hit create a new category and you create your own. One of the things that I really encourage you to do is to include in the description what the actual line item or category is about. So you know your project exactly the way it is, but we don't know. So this is a great way to be like, okay, this is going to cover just these specific supplies or specific items in this specific category, so that when the expenses start coming through, then we're looking at it and comparing it to what the description that you gave, that we're like, okay, yes, this looks great. It avoids phone calls. It avoids several emails back and forth to try to explain.
Absolutely. That's a great point. This will make your life easier and our life easier down the road as you're hopefully awarded funds, because this will help us understand what you're using the funds for, so that as you're submitting expenses for approval, we can really easily identify whether it falls under one category or another.
Yes.
So we just created a new category. I'm still seeing zeros here. The reason for that is those categories are exactly what they sound like. They're categories.
Right.
We need line items under the category, right? So if you've got a particular type of supply that you want to include, as Abra's mentioning, I don't know, maybe some paper?
Right.
Okay, and maybe this is like gold-plated paper, so it's like $1 million or $100,000.
Fancy paper.
It's the really good quality stuff that doesn't fold or bend easily, right? So I would type in good quality paper in my narrative here,
Justified.
so that it's very easy to understand what it is that I'm asking for in the grant funds here. I click create. Now I'm seeing that $100,000 paper showing up in my grant budget. Right over here. And that will all total everything for you. So as you're adding items, you'll see this number on the bottom for the total expense budget costs start to go up.
Yes.
And then on the bottom here, this award requested is that $5 million from that first section that we were looking at, which was project information. So if I need to edit this, I need to go back to project information to change how much I'm requesting. But it's going to take the award request and subtract the expense of the budget here, and that'll tell me what the overall budget cost is. And as you'll see in red here, the total overall budget cost must be 0. So we believe in balanced budgets,
Right?
At least for grant applications.
Exactly.
So you need to have a balanced budget. Your amount of expenses needs to equal the amount that you're requesting. And if you need to change the award request, you can go back and do that. If you need to add new categories, or you need to edit a category, you fat-fingered it and need to come back and fix something, you can do that here. I would highly recommend that you spend a good amount of time on the budget. It's the last section, so sometimes it gets to be the section that we cram on and we try to finish at the 11th hour. But you will not be able to submit an application without a balanced budget. The system will not let you hit submit. And actually, I can show you what that looks like right now. We're going to hop over to submit here. And it is grayed out. So your budget has errors that require your attention is in red right here. You're going to want to make sure that budget is taken care of, so that you're not calling me crying at
5:01.
5:01 after the application is due.
Yes.
And that's actually a good point. So when is the application due?
It's October 10th, and it's at 5 p.m. Central Standard Time. So please, I will strongly advise or encourage you to start filling out that application. Do not wait until the last minute. As we've seen in the past, even like applications that people did put time on and they didn't wait until the last minute, those end up, most of them are like the strongest application. So spend time on it. If you need to save it, come back and try to finish it up before that 5:01 mark. Otherwise, I cannot help.
Yes, the system will. Yes, the system will lock you out at 5:01.
Yes.
So don't wait for a technical glitch at 4:59.
Right.
Try to submit your application well in advance, a day in advance if you can.
Yes.
Noon would be great.
Yes.
That gives our technical support team some time to try to sort things out for you if you do run into any issues. So that's really all I want to talk about for now in terms of the application. But again, I'll just mention, if you're walking through this application and there's any parts that are unclear or you've got questions, always welcome to reach out to us. For those of you that are watching us live right now, if you've got specific questions that you'd like to ask, drop those in the comments section, and we'll try to respond to some of those live here. We've got a little bit of time left, and so we're going to hit one or two more topics, and then we'll take some live questions that you might have. So start thinking of those now.
Yes.
If we don't have questions already. But I want to talk a little bit about what happens after I hit submit. So once I've submitted my application, what is the process that their application is going to go through at that point?
So that application is going to go through a evaluation criteria, which will be listed under Section 5. Hopefully, I got the section right.
Yes, absolutely.
Yay.
Score one for APRA.
So under Section 5, you will see that evaluation criteria. This is exactly what we're going to use to evaluate your application. Then if you scroll a little bit down below, you will see the priorities that we talked about earlier for youth talent. So that's under
so in
Section 5 as well, right?
Yep, 5.3 here, we've got kind of a breakdown. So just to clarify what's going on here, in 5.1, we've got kind of the different weights for each of these categories. For the most part, that is going to be consistent, again, across every single application round in the North and South Omaha Recovery Grant Program.
That are being scored.
Yep, that are being competitively scored.
Yes.
Yep, so the program-specific category here, this is a good chunk. This is about 21% of your application, 22% of your application's weight will be based on these program-specific priorities.
Yes.
So talking about those priorities that we talked about earlier, we're going to go to 5.3, and this is going to give a breakdown of specifically the criteria that the review team will actually use as they're reviewing and evaluating your capacity, your financial and administrative readiness, and some of those other categories outlined above. But the specific round we're talking about today is youth talent and workforce, right?
Exactly.
So that is listed in this little box here, and we've got two different categories. So again, this accounts for 22%,
right.
and that's a sizable chunk of how your application is going to be scored. Talk to me a little bit about those different priorities here.
Yeah, so of course the youth talent workforce development, the target is that H3 categories, high wage, high growth, and high demand jobs that will be prioritized, of course, when we're evaluating these. So that will be a priority that the evaluation or the people that are going to be scoring will be looking at when they're reviewing your application.
Yep. So if you think that your proposal is targeting those types of jobs, make that very abundantly clear in your application. Make it easy on our review team to tell that this is a priority in your application so that we can give you those points there.
Yep.
The second one here, we've talked about a little bit already, but it's programs that demonstrate partnerships with an institution of higher education, public school district, or corporation with at least 200 employees.
Yes. So those partners will be listed. Of course, in that application process, we did see where you can list those very specifically. So if you're partnering with an institution of higher education, if you're partnering with a public school district, and you say yes, and if you're partnering with a few of them, just list all of them. It does help because you will get priority. If you are partnering with a corporation that has more than 200 employees, yes. If you're partnering with a couple, list all of them there. That actually is one question that I had through email before, because one of the organization potential applicants is looking at the application was asking if they should list the corporation of more than 200 employees as a partner entity at the beginning of the application, or list them under this. I would strongly suggest you list them under this. You can list them under both. Now, if the partner entity is somebody that, a partner that's going to be helping you carry out this project, so you can list them there. If you feel like, hey, this organization can also help me get priority, please list them under here, because this is a section that we're going to be specifically looking at to see if you get priority or not.
Absolutely. That's a really great point. And so I just want to break that down a little bit. So as you're listing those organizations you're partnering with for the priority points here, In addition, as Abra is mentioning here, there's another section of this application where you're going to want to account for those partners. And that's part 2, aptly named Partner Entity Information.
Yes.
So in addition to listing it in part 3 for the priority points, you'll want to note if you are working with those partners in part 2. We have a bunch of boxes here that you can fill out for up to 5 different partner entities.
Yes.
And if you have more partners beyond those 5, there is an additional template form that you can use so that you can account for all of your partners.
Yes.
As Abra mentioned, the organizations that you're wanting to get that priority points for, that you're partnering with, should definitely go in this partner entity section to make sure that we have a full accounting for them. If there are entities you're partnering with that aren't one of those 3 categories, those can be listed here as well.
Yes.
Not going to necessarily give you those priority points,
Right.
but we still want to know who you're working with.
Exactly.
And this is a question we've received about, what's the line between someone that I'm, working with versus a partner. So can you help us maybe talk through a little bit? Where's the line between should I list someone as a partner or not?
So I'd say anybody that's helping you carry out this project, and you're not necessarily listing them. Of course, if you're paying a contractor, that would not necessarily be a partner. But
Correct.
If you're working with an entity that you're like, okay, yes, this is of course talent workforce development. So if you're working with an entity that's going to help you with job training, for instance, and you're going to be sending the individuals that are living in the QCT to that entity, that's a partner.
Yes.
And then if you can use them as also a partnering entity to get priority, great, amazing.
Yep, absolutely. So, when in doubt, probably best to provide information about anyone that might be considered a partner.
Yes.
Otherwise, we might have to follow up with you afterwards to try to track you down and track down their information so we can thoroughly vet your partners as well.
Yes.
But if you're, working on a project and you have a plumber that helps out in the building once in a while, you probably don't need to list the plumber if they're not integral to the scope of the project, right?
Exactly.
So you can kind of make that determination and just kind of think about what is within the scope of the services that you're providing.
Right.
So that's all that I had kind of in mind for going over today in the workshop. I want to get to some questions if we have any from the audience. So if you haven't asked a question yet and you have something that came to mind, please put that in the comments section on the live stream. But I do want to revisit one other common question that we've seen a lot, which is, can I change the details of my project from the coordination plan and appendices from what I originally submitted like a year ago?
Yeah, and I think this goes out to every funding category. I think we've received that question quite a lot. You could tweak and make a couple details or a couple changes or add a couple details as long as it aligns with the original scope of work that you listed in your proposal. So we don't want it to be, okay, your original proposal was about talent workforce, and then you're applying for talent workforce, then you're talking to me about placemaking and your new added change, and I'm like, yeah, this is not your original scope of work that you originally said you were going to be doing. So try to, at least if you're making any changes, please keep it within the scope of work that was listed in your original proposal.
Yes, absolutely. And the reason this is so important is this is part of the legislation that enables this program. So in order to be considered for funding, your project has to be listed in the coordination plan or appendices. We want you to be able to clearly reference your project and to clearly make the case for us that the project you're applying for now is the project that was listed in the coordination plan or appendices.
Right.
If details have changed in the year since you originally submitted that proposal, please keep us up to date. But once your project starts to change beyond the scope of what was originally in the coordination plan or appendices, we start to run into some murky legal waters where you're no longer applying for a project that's listed. So make it easy for us to justify that you are eligible by justifying that to us in your application and clearly referencing the coordination plan or appendices.
Yeah.
So I don't think that we have any questions in the chat right now.
I believe we did a great job answering questions. So
That
I've
must be it.
received a lot of questions about this particular category, which I'm excited about. And of course, receiving a lot of questions through email, through phone calls was really exciting because I know that folks are also excited to, build that talent and attract that talent over to the South and North Omaha communities.
Yeah, and that's a great segue to talk about our frequently asked questions. So back to our webpage under program resources, we have a frequently asked questions document. Aber mentioned we've been receiving a lot of questions. We've been doing our best to respond to those. And also we've been including those questions and responses in the frequently asked questions so that if you have a question that somebody else has asked before,
Yes.
you can find that in this document. You'll notice this was last updated on September 19th, 2023. That was, I think, that was 2 days ago.
2 days ago.
Yeah, so just earlier this week. And we are going to continue to update this with any questions that we might receive after the fact. So if you're watching this as a rerun, feel free to continue to comment and ask questions. And we'll make sure that those questions get incorporated into the frequently asked questions document as well.
Right.
Some really good information in here. Would
Yes.
highly recommend to review this document. I think we're up to about 60
Yes.
frequently asked questions now, so there's quite a bit of good information in here,
Yes.
and definitely worth your time if you're considering applying. All right. Well, since we don't have any questions, like Abra said, I think we just did a great job being
Yeah.
really clear. And so there's no questions for now. But thank you so much for tuning in today. Hopefully this was valuable. Again, our contact information is listed on the website. Please feel free to reach out at any point if you have questions. And one last resource that I'll just mention, we have office hours in our North and South Omaha offices. Those are posted at the bottom of our website page as well. So in the North Omaha office, we'll be offering office hours. Feel free to drop in. You don't need to make an appointment. Those in the North Omaha office are on Tuesdays and Thursdays, Tuesdays from 10 to 1 and Thursdays from 12 to 3.
Yes.
And in the South Omaha office, we'll have those office hours on Mondays and Wednesdays, Mondays from 10 to 1 and Wednesdays from 12 to 3. So between the office hours, our contact information, the FAQs, this video, we hope that you're feeling confident and prepared going forward. And feel free to reach out at any point.
Absolutely. We're available.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.